So I'm going to tell you guys how to make your 283 Chevy the combination to make your car haul ass. I mean, a lot of you guys don't think. I was looking on a forum a little while ago and they said, oh, the 283, that's a piece of crap motor. They don't have any power. Well, and I'm going to tell you that that's not true. The 283 can really haul ass. And here's the combination. What we had in the 283, we had in the 64 El Camino that would beat 350s, 400 small blocks, all kinds of stuff that they had. So on the front of the head, you want to find a head that has this marking on it. And what that is that's called a power pack head for your 283. They were on the earlier 283s in the late 50s, early 60s. And those heads were, I think, 192 valves. And I don't know if you can put 194 valves in the 283, but that's all right. You don't need it. So it's all about combination. So you can say, okay, it's the engine, but the weight of the car helps. If you have a really heavy car, a 283 is really not the engine for it. I would say more torque would be more important. But with those heads, what this does is these have a closed chamber head, and so let me draw that out a little bit. So kind of what a closed chamber head is versus, let's say this is an open chamber head. The closed chamber head is like this and like this. So that these are your valves. This is your head opening, and what they do is the spark plug has more like meat around it, around here and here. And what that does is gives you a smaller chamber in your head so that you'll have more compression. So the stock 283 would have flat top pistons most of the time. I don't think they made them with anything else. And so you want to find the heads that have this marking on the front. Okay, now your intake manifold. I've seen guys go, oh yeah, you got to run an Edelbrock manifold. You got to do all this other stuff. No, you don't need that. You can use a stock quadrajet manifold. Now a lot of guys would go, no, you want to run a Holly, and what that looks like is it has two small primaries and two large secondaries on the manifold. So stock quadrajet manifold works really well, and those came on 350s. They came on a whole bunch of different small block engines, so it doesn't matter which one it came off of. Most of them, as long as it has the primary secondaries that look like this on the top of the head, and the top of the where the carburetor goes, that's what you want. You want this. You can use a stock intake manifold with this engine, and it'll work really well. If you want to go with Edelbrock, you can, but again, I would stay with the primary secondary setup for a quadrajet carburetor. Now, on your quadrajet carburetor, on the top of your carburetor, there's a little thing that goes like this across the top for your secondaries, and it has a screw right in the middle of it. And what you want to do is you want to take that out, slide it out, and you want to find the narrowest rods you can find for the secondaries. We used to just go down to pick apart. Now, I'm sure you can't do this now, but we'd find an old Cadillac or an old Buick BPOC, Buick Pontiac Oldsmobile Cadillac. We'd find one of those, and we'd take the rods out of one of those, and usually they had the really narrow rods where they were more shaped like this, versus the ones that came in it were more of like this. It's hard for me to draw this and look at this on my phone. Okay, and we drop those rods in the carburetor. What that would do is richen up your secondaries, and they were vacuum operated so that you know, it would give you a little bit of a stumble, but man, I mean, it would come on so strong. And it worked. I always had way better luck with these carburetors than I did with the Hollies, and like I said, we used to beat people with all this other stuff with 350s, Hollies, and everything else with this old 283. So you find those rods, you get that intake manifold. Now the cam we used was actually a stock performance cam. But you can go to like a mild RV cam or a medium, cam performance. Don't go to a heavy rough idle, because you'll lose the little bit of torque that you have with this engine, and it really is a top end engine. The other thing you need to do, so almost everything you can do is bolt on stock parts. So if you have a person with a stock parts pile, you can really clean up on just using stock parts on this thing. So the other thing that you have to be focused in on is, because the engine is mostly designed for top end, we used 410 gears. 410 gears, Muncie rock crusher transmission if you can get one, with the tall first gear, close ratio second, third, fourth. Okay, that worked really well with that engine and that transmission and that gearing. And the other thing that we used that worked really well with that combination was the advance in the distributor. So what we did is we took the distributor apart, and then in the distributor there's the springs, there's two springs, and there's weights on the sides, and we would change the weights and the springs on the distributor. Now this made the big difference. Now, so they probably have a Mallory adjustable or something like that you can use to do the same thing. But what we do is we would have less static advance, okay, because the fuels today don't like a lot of compression, so you're going to be running like 10.5 to 1 on this engine, and they weren't really that great of a, and I compared to today, you can run 11 to 1, some of these engines do, with the better flow heads and stuff like that, and combustion chamber, or they fire right on the piston instead of in the combustion chamber, which is more efficient. So anyway, but we used to run, make it so the advance came on later, versus so that we could build in more advance, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So that the advance would come on at, say, 3,500 to 4,000 RPMs fully at that point, and then we'd run less static advance at idle, because then it wouldn't ping. So just play with that a little bit. But if people say 283 can't run good, that's just not true. They can, and that's how you do it. And what made me think of this is I was driving the Mustang, and that thing's a pig. It has no power, and I was like, man, 283 versus 289, I'd much rather have a 283. I know all the stuff you can do to it, and the 289 just felt like it didn't have any power. So even with the cam and everything else, I was like, man, this thing's slow. Not compared to what I'm used to when I drive a 283 that was in the El Camino. That really, it would set you back in the seat, and you'd smoke the tires through first, second, hit third, you'd chirp third or better, and be going 100 miles an hour in no time. So people that say one of these things can't run, that's just not true. So those are some concepts that we'll look over, and some of the things to use on that engine that really work well. I will talk to you guys in the next video.